Hello NES, thanks for tuning in. This is NES Vocalized. Now, if you've ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes of the school, this podcast is for you. If you've ever wondered what it's like to grow up in NES, this podcast is for you. And if you've ever wondered what skeletons are hidden in the fabled common room, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Rowan Khalil, and I'm here to talk to you about pretty much anything and everything, as if I do not talk enough already. So fun.
And I'm your host, Omer Eissa, and I'm here to discuss things that I don't feel get their fair share in the limelight. So this is NES from a different point of view. This is NES deconstructed. This is NES vocalized.
There's ice to be broken when there are words to be spoken. If you've thought about it, then we've talked about it.
Well, I think when it comes to valuing certain talents over others, it's not entirely a negative thing, right? In a sense, it's useful. In a sense, it's effective, because all talents really, all hobbies at their core are really just party tricks, right? I play basketball. I'm really just throwing a sphere into a basket, okay? Like, I can paint, I'm really just making marks on a page. At some point, if you break them down into their simplest components, they're just really things that you can do. So when it comes to all the different things that you can do, it's useful to have a general understanding of what is more impactful, right? Because what that does is, the way we judge hobbies we judge them by the potential that they have. We judge them by what I can eventually get out of this once I become skilled at it, right? So when that's essentially reflected by how important or how exposed things are in modern society. But, if your hobby or your passion outside of school is learning about medicine or working or volunteering at a hospital or something, that it is true that is going to probably develop into medical skill, and it's probably going to make you a better doctor in the long run if you choose to do that. And we all know how important doctors are. But if you do something like collect stamps, right, that's really only for you. You're really only doing it in its true form. It is a hobby, right, or a passion, because you're doing it for yourself and no one but yourself. But it's true that certain hobbies are more impactful in the long run than others. The problem comes where you have people who are going to prioritize or base their hobbies on how important people look at them.
They shed so much light on how other people perceive them, instead of how much they want to put into it or how much they want to enjoy it. And that I think they kind of flip what the idea of having something that you enjoy mean, and then they might end up doing something just for the sake of it, instead of for the sake of enjoying it or for the sake of actually wanting to do it.
Yeah. So if you're gonna do something, do it for you. Otherwise, you shouldn't do it unless you're gonna give 100%. You shouldn't do it unless you're gonna get the most that you can get out of it by giving the most that you can give into it, right? If you really have a passion, right, it's gonna dominate all other passions. Everyone's got multiple, right? But we all have that one. So you're gonna learn about it. You're gonna consume content about it that makes you better. Everything that you do, right, is going to be in some way a reflection to help you improve at that passion. But once it becomes something that you're doing for someone else, or something you do because someone else has told you it's important, or someone else has shown you that it's more valuable, then not only are you going to burn out, you're going to get reluctant, or if you do get good at it, once you look back, right, you don't see, look at how far I've come. You see, look at how much time I've wasted.
Exactly. I actually experienced that. A few years ago when I was taking my IGs, I took IG art because it's something I'm powerful in, and I was sure that I'd get a good grade in it. And after doing a year in IG art, I realized that I wasn't painting the things I was passionate for. I wasn't using colors the way I wanted to use them. I was limited to painting pots and paintbrushes and pencils. To me, to some artists, that's their style. That's what they like to paint. But to me, it was very, very much outside of my genre. And after a year, I actually became much better. I improved a lot, but I decided to drop art because it was affecting my passion for it. It was it was making me dread art.
Right, and that's a struggle that a lot of people go through. I know a lot of people who've, either avoided doing something as an academic subject because they thought it would take the fun out of it or the passion out of it for them, or because, or they've done it and it's ruined the passion for them just because of how formalized and standardized it becomes, like how much you have to do instead of how much you feel like doing. It's realistic. It's a struggle that a lot of people go through.
I've always loved English when I was younger. A lot, actually. I used to write poems. They used to be like really weird poems. Like there was one that was like, I try, and then I fail, and then I try. It was really weird. But then as I grew up, and then I developed this passion for writing, and now I write for like a teen magazine. And it's actually one of the most rewarding things I ever do. I climbed up that ladder in the magazine like really quickly, which was amazing. And now I write not because I have to. No one forces me to write. Yes, there are due dates and all of that stuff. I kind of get to write about the topics I want at the times I want, and it ends up as a really rewarding thing when you have your articles go out, or you have like something that you think about go out, and you get people who talk to you and they're like, yes, this has made a difference in my life. And I think my childhood has molded my love and my passions now, whether it's my writing or maybe like my MUN experiences and etc., etc. Saba, how would you think your childhood has impacted your love for animals?
Well, as a kid, I used to have a neighbor who was also a zookeeper. He used to have all the animals, literally every single animal you could possibly think of. He had it, except the wild ones like tigers and lions. That's just crazy.
Did they have a giraffe?
No.
That's okay.
Do you have a really big boat?
No, he did, but...
Oh, I was kidding.
But no. No, he did, but in Mauritius, where he came from, but not in Kuwait, obviously. So the place we lived in was, it was 2 apartments. I was in the apartment above his, and he had like a tiny garden in front of his apartment, and he just filled it up with animals. I remember around Eid time, he'd get like 5 sheep, and I would just sleep between the sheep. And from that experience, I became very familiar with animals and the smells that come with it. And then about 8 years ago, my dad kind of got bored of like the smaller animals and sheep. So then he came up to me and he was like, hey, what do you think about horses? And I was like, they're very beautiful. And he was like, okay, so there's this injured horse, and I'd like to go have a look at it. Would you like to join me? So I went and I fell in love with him. And we actually treated him. We brought him to my house and we put him in my backyard. And my dad performed a mini surgery on his leg. His leg was infected, and I was kind of his assistant. And he also let me inject some of the medicine into him. It was a very nice experience as a kid. And then that caused me to ask my dad about horse riding. From that, I started to love horses and horse riding. And then I kept pushing. I fell so many times. I was a very skinny kid, and my coach used to hate me. He used to yell at me for being really, really tiny and skinny. And
Ouch.
7 years later, I finally made my first leap over a really high fence, this year actually. And it just reminded me of why I started in the first place.
Omer, how would you approach your passion or a passion of yours?
I'll use math as an example, right? So it's fine. Okay.
I used to love it.
Okay.
May I add, Omar is amazing at math. He never fails to surprise me and shock me every single math lesson. I am in love with your passion for maths.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. When it comes to something like math, it's something I've been doing since before I was in school, right? I was trying to learn math from my parents. Not obviously it's not formalized math or anything. It was really just counting, like addition, subtraction, all that stuff. I had books on it outside of school, and the way I like to approach it is, the way math works is everything you learn, you improve based on your knowledge and your newly acquired skills, because there's different ways you can picture, visualize, think of, and approach math. So once it comes to the school, once you learn all of that, right, once you're on top of that, then you can go outside of school. I like to think about if I have a passion and I'm required to do some of it, I'll get the required down completely. Then I can go explore on my own, because then it feels like I'm
liberating.
Not only going above and beyond, but I'm doing it for me rather than doing it because I have to. I could very well be passionate about school math, but when it's really the stuff that I do outside of school that separates it from something something I like to something I want to really, really get good at.
I think when you have something that you really enjoy and you put a lot of effort into it, it's liberating to go outside the realms of what you're expected to do. Because what you're expected to do, there are around 50 other people actually doing it.
Right.
But what you do in your own time is what's special. It's what makes it stand out. It's what makes you feel, yes, I feel a bit unique. Maybe I'm not the most unique person in the world, but for me, I stand out, at least for myself.
Right.
It gives you that extra spice.
I'd like to, both of you are very passionate people. Both of you are experienced in doing something that you love for the sake of doing it. So I think I can speak for everyone here by saying that it's a lot easier to do something when you know that no one else is doing it, because the expectation of you is zero. Everything that you do, there's zero feeling of, I'm doing this because I have to, right? And I'm still going above, but I'm doing the thing itself because I have to. You're doing it because you enjoy it and because it feels good for you. So when it comes to math, I know that whatever I do inside class or in the classroom, 20 other people are going to be doing it. Exactly. Everyone else is going to be doing it. They might not be doing it as well or as badly as I am, right? The quality of how I do it relative to them is dependent on everyone else's performance, but I know that they're still doing it. Everything I do outside of school, I know this is me going not above, but at least off to the side. I'm creating my own path and I'm driving through it, right?
I like that.
So when it comes to a passion or a hobby, it's not enough to do it because someone has introduced you to it. You have to do it to the fullest, right? Even if you're doing it just because someone has introduced you to it, at some point you'll reach a point where you realize, okay, I need to either stop doing this because I don't like it, or I'm going to keep doing this because I love it. At that point, past it, you've developed a passion because you've made the decision, if the person, once the period where the person has introduced you to it has kind of faded, where the newness of it has faded, and you're doing it because you want to continue in it and you're not just sort of being pushed, right? You're doing it, that's when it becomes a passion. It's like if I'm going to use an analogy, like if I was riding a bike and I was learning how to ride a bike and my dad was pushing me, right, and I was being pushed. If I'm just moving off that initial push, I'm just moving because he pushed me. Once I start to pedal and I start to go, I'm doing it because I'm just riding the bike now.
Yeah.
So then that becomes a passion.
Yeah. I think going to our closing remarks, I would like to go back to what this episode was supposed to. It's what this episode is about, and it's how your passion, your hobbies, your talents are all not a waste of time.
This concludes NES Vocalized. We'd like to thank everyone for being here. Ariba, our guest behind the scenes, our producer, the Invisible Man, Saba, our lovely guest, Rowan, our lovely host, and myself.
Omer, our lovely mathematician.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that.
No, and our lovely, lovely, lovely host. And I hope you enjoy listening to our podcast, and I hope you tune in for our next episode.
Oh, and I'd also like to add, if you guys see bees around the school, they're most probably mine, and it would mean an awful lot to me if you don't squish them to death, because they really won't sting you if you don't go near them. It's okay if they're on your desk; they really won't do anything. I've faced thousands of bees, literally, and I don't get stung. So please, please, please don't kill my bees, and thank you so much for having me.
All right, I am Omer Eissa, and I am signing off with an allergic reaction to the bee sting.
This is my sample voice. How do I sound? Good?
I got into this.
Here we go again.
Can we have both of you?
What?
Can we have both of you?
And we've entered that stage. This concludes the Rowan Khalil Laughter Hour.